What's going on, Husker fans? Welcome back to Believe in Nebraska Football on the Believe Podcast Network. I am your host, Sam Casaccio, hosting with Husker legends Eric Crouch and Johnny the Jet Rodgers. How you guys doing,
buddy?
Today?
It's on like
great.
buttered popcorn, Sam.
What's going on, guys?
We're doing all right. I mean, it was a tough Saturday for the Huskers, and once again this week it looked like it was going right. But to me, it kind of looked like we stuck with a quarterback that was doing things all wrong. I mean, not all wrong. He took a read option, play into the end zone, got us kind of out to that 10-point lead. But I remember looking around, the people I was watching the game with, and said, like, even when we were up, I was like, Chuba hasn't really made a throw. I was like, we're running the ball. The offensive line looked inspired in the first half of that game. But yeah, I'm kind of curious what you saw out there, Eric, because it looked like Logan kind of was doing things more right, but it was a little too late by the time they got him in the game.
I mean, looking at the quarterbacks, obviously there are guys that just don't have the experience. I mean, I know that it's your chance to go out there and make plays, and you had a week of practice to do that, and they're going to play two guys, and I think you got to deal with what the guys are good at. If you're in a passing situation, you bring in the guy that throws the ball better. If you need to run it, you bring in the guy that can run it. And instead of asking those guys to do different things and play when it's hot and play when it's not. Like, look, your offense might be a little bit more one dimensional when those guys are in the game, but in my opinion, you got to use what they're strong at. So that's what I think. I mean, call your plays around what guys are their strengths and let them roll.
What if you don't have any?
No, these guys got strengths. I mean,
they got strengths. I mean, I think Chuba ran the ball pretty well, but it was kind of the question of the conversation that it kind of surrounded these two quarterbacks had been that, we really trust in Chuba's arm downfield, and, we feel better about Logan's legs. He's a better runner. And then they came out with a game plan to begin the game where the offensive line is started blocking. Like, if we don't get Anthony Grant going, there's no chance in this game. And that's the way it looked to me. And they didn't really try to pass the ball. And I'm like, if you're going to run, read option plays and just pound, try to run the ball, how was Logan not the first guy on the field? And it just kind of felt like they ended up by the time they put Logan in after 6 3-and-outs. I mean, Chuba had ended up being, I think, 6 of 16 for 40 yards. And Logan ended up in a limited amount of time. Logan ended up throwing for 80 yards and was like 50%, at least, 50% is not that great, but they kind of put him in a bad situation. Like, if we don't really trust his arm, why was he coming in the game? I mean, we know why he's coming in the game, because the offense had completely stalled with Chuba playing. But it was just, I felt like they kind of hung him out to dry. And honestly, he still answered the bell, even though, I mean, let's call it what it is. He probably should have ran for that first down on 3rd and 5 on the last drive. But on 4th and 5, I mean, Trey dropped it. he hit him. He played really well.
I guess one thing I'd say is just, looking at this, and when you're in Nebraska's situation right now where, you're not completely trusting the line, or maybe your running back, or maybe your quarterback, I would say Logan Smothers may give you the best chance. Just a guy that can run it. He can make some plays, get away from a little bit of trouble, and also threw it pretty well. I mean, if you look at what he did last week, he completed percentage-wise more than Purdy did, and he threw for more yards. And so I don't know. If you look at that, you go, okay, well, shoot, let's go. And that's one thing. I'm just saying things that I would do, to try to improve this chances of competing better against, Michigan coming up. So, a guy with you look at a lot of quarterbacks in college right now, and these guys got legs. They can get outside and make plays, and they're smart. So that gives you another dynamic.
What do you think, Johnny?
Well, I think when your line really can't compete, as far as strength is concerned, you probably got to go to the run and be a little bit more versatile. I just like to see some of our linemen that if I could just point out that we had one guy that might make All-American or All-Conference or all something, that we had some type of a leadership on that line. I to build a good football team, the way I feel about it, you always have a strong foundation up front. You have to have a line. Otherwise, your quarterbacks are, whether they're passing or runners, they both going to be scrambling almost all the time. And people are going to look at as if they don't know what they're doing. But, when those guys are 250, 300 pounds that are coming down on you 2 or 3 at a time, it's kind of tough to make good decisions.
Right. I guess what's kind of frustrating to me, and this is like part of the deal with like, having a podcast, is like, I know what I said last week, and I felt frustrated last week that we kept going with Chubba, and I don't want to pile on Chubba. Like, all these guys are Cornhuskers, right? We're fans of all these kids and their kids. Like, I support all these guys. I've been excited about Chubba. I guess more than I'm mad about what happened with Chubba, or that Chubba was given a chance, I felt like Logan ultimately kind of got slighted here. It cost us 2 games. I felt like at the end of the day, like Logan and Mickey kind of acknowledged this in his press conference. Like, you probably should have gone to him earlier, but that might've been true again, the Illinois game. I mean, we had 15 yards of offense when Chubba went in the Illinois game. Why didn't Logan come in at any point? Why we, according to him in practice, it's seeming like Chubba's a little more on it in practice and has frozen in game situations, and that Logan's a little more inconsistent, and that he's kind of a guy, an under the lights guy. Like, he plays better than he does in practice. And that's what they're saying. So I don't get to watch practice. I just get to see the games. So when I watch the games, and every time Logan comes in, he runs the offense, he's efficient, he picks up first downs, he plays well. And then, and it's 2 weeks of our offense basically being non-existent. I guess the thing that was most puzzling to me about this game, and I said it before, was that it's like, if you're putting Chubb out there because you want to push the ball down the field, that's great. But you didn't call those plays on the first 2 or 3 drives. You didn't call those plays. So it seemed like you kind of knew. I just wonder if there had been any favoritism there. I know we won't know that, but I know the decision was left to Whipple. And
got to favor somebody. Somebody's got to get the start.
Somebody gets the start, but I mean, favored just without having to do with football. You know what I mean? Like, I know Whipple recruited Chubba Purdy at Pittsburgh. And then when he came here, he brought him over. And I wonder if we kind of just handing him the number 2 spot, and that maybe that was promised to him when I think
you can't make promises right now. There's nothing to be promised.
That's right.
Nebraska. So
I hope they're going with Logan. I mean, even still, Mickey's still talking about it. Like, we're going to give him even reps in practice. I'm like, well, why?
Well, maybe they're seeing something we're not at practice, but I mean, sometimes if you don't practice well, and it doesn't, do well for coach's confidence to throw you in the game. So,
right.
I mean, you got to practice well and make good decisions. If you're throwing picks and calling the wrong plays and forgetting, which way to open up, and, not picking up the blitzes. I mean, that's a problem too, because to me, you're saying, well, if you're going to practice like this, then what are we going to get when we, when the lights come on, like you referred, on the game day. So, you gotta be all around.
Yeah. If you don't practice well, you're really not going to be able to make your point of why you should be starting in the game.
Right. No doubt.
This is not going to happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, and like, to be fair, Mickey Joseph, Mark Whipple, these guys aren't here last year. They didn't, they can see on film what Logan Smothers did in that Iowa game, but they're like you guys are saying. So I guess we, that's what we have to believe, is that's what's going on. I feel like it's hard to believe, because I'm just like, if this kid's practicing as bad as you're saying, how is he? I mean, he comes out and he's playing pretty good. Like, he was in a bad situation. Like, for his skill set, that was a terrible situation, that he had to just drop back every play and try to throw the ball and do as well as he did. Like, he didn't really lose us the game. Like, he had the we had the opportunity. He had the opportunity to go down and tie that game, and was kind of doing a good job of that. So I guess we'll see what goes into Michigan. I would expect to see Logan Smothers. Maybe not.
I would too. Yeah, I would too. I mean, there's no reason why not. I mean, it's you got to try something different now. I mean, it's about it's about competing to the best that they can compete. And, I think Logan with his legs and the way he played last week, I think he earned that.
Yeah, I think at this point it's fair to say that he should be the backup to Casey. We just got the update just now that Casey Thompson's already been ruled out for this game, so we will probably looking at Logan. Hopefully, I hope we're looking at Logan. I will say that I will be beyond frustrated if that's not what I see. Like, I don't know what they're doing in practice, but like if we start with Chubba and it goes well, I mean, hey, if anything goes well, I won't be frustrated. But like, if we go out and stall on a third game of playing Chubba Purdy and just doesn't get the offense going, I'm just gonna, at some point, this is, Whipple may be making the call, but Mickey knows that Whipple's making the call, and he stood by the call. In the post game, like he said, Whipple and I are on the same page as to who's starting at quarterback. So, that's what I hope to see. I don't think we have, I think that Michigan game is going to be.
How do you guys view our play calling? I see too many plays that seem wasted plays to me that you can't possibly go anywhere. We don't need to go right up the middle all the time. I mean, when we need on short yardage, let's go up to tackles sometimes.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
I agree with that.
Yeah, because our guys aren't big enough, tough enough, strong enough to blow nobody out. Let's face it. We're gonna have to run it around some people, not running through nobody. It doesn't seem we can't push nobody off the line.
The run game got off to a good start in this game.
We're starting,
it was all run.
Yeah, but ain't nothing happened until fourth quarter. If you can't get 3 yards, 3 yards, and 4 yards, then your run is not good running.
I mean, yeah, by the fourth quarter, we'd become. I mean, it literally
fatigue
until Chubba came out, they were just one dimensional. And by that time that Chubba did come out, the game, we're in the fourth quarter and we're down by 2 scores. It was, we had become one. We weren't running the ball at all. Like we put Logan in to be, run be a drop back passer, and that's where we're at. And like that's a mistake. I mean, Mickey acknowledged that was a mistake. Like that, obviously,
Logan's a runner, not
that wasn't
the
the plan. Yeah, right? That's not the plan to put Logan in.
I'd like to see, the run game with the zone read, with the play action, with the sliding the line. There's no reason why this line, you can't put a quarterback back there and have this offensive line, protect him for the time that he needs. It's just
right.
Plus these young quarterbacks, it's just not going to happen because they're going to be showing all kinds of crazy blitzes. If I'm a D coordinator and you got young quarterbacks, I'm showing all kinds of different things and blitzes, and because you're just not used to reading that and seeing that and picking that up. So you got to find plays that work in the blitz. You got to understand, you're going to get that. And you gotta rep them in practice and get your QB, ready to go. And I do like the read. The zone read is a really good play. That's something that you got to kind of master these days. I mean, that's just college football. You got to do it. And if you got a guy like Logan that he adds another dimension, it makes it harder for that defensive end and that linebacker to just tee off on your running back. So it should open up. I mean, having Logan in the game should open up a little bit more for Grant in the run game.
Chubba ran run plays. I mean, he picked up multiple first downs with his legs. I actually thought he looked fast. What was crazy to me,
I agree.
He's supposed to be the passing quarterback. We ran the ball effectively, and then he just couldn't see the field at all after play action. And I want to also say that there were some passes where I felt like Trey Palmer and Vokalek, like they could have caught those balls and like got something going. And they didn't catch them. Maybe they weren't perfect, but like you guys are the stars on this team. You got to help the young guy out. Just if he gets the ball, if it hits you in the hands, you got to catch it. You got you got Chubba Purdy as the backup quarterback, a sophomore in the game. You guys are the stars on the team. If it hits you in the hands, you got to catch it. And like, Trey, I mean, we got Logan dropping back. He put it right on his hands to end the game. You got to catch those balls. I think this was a down game for Trey Palmer. I think the last 2 games have been a down game.
Well, the rule is if you touch it, you got to catch it.
Yeah, like if it hits you in the hands.
Passes. If you touch it, you catch it.
I get it.
You're not going to get a whole lot of perfect passes, right now.
No perfect passes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That. If you touch it, you catch it, and that's that.
Help this guy get into rhythm a little bit. He hits you in the hands. I mean, catch the ball.
That's the wrong place.
Yes, they
Uh,
hit him in
I
a
mean,
bad
I-
place in the hands.
From an overall perspective, though, I mean, I was pretty jacked up. Like, I mean, we came out against Minnesota, and I'm like, dang. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, we
I
didn't even
was
talk.
too.
I mean,
we looked great.
We looked
initially.
so good in that first half, and I was like, man, and we haven't really been a team that has played well in the second half, and we really haven't been a team that's kind of adjusted. It's almost like the opposite happens. You know, we get these leads and these jumps, and we get out in the second half, and you just start to feel the game just always, almost that middle of that third quarter, just start to slip. And I
They
just felt
start
the
to
same
get
thing.
tired.
I felt the same thing again.
Fatigue makes cowards of us all.
Yeah, I
We
just,
start off fast. The horse that runs fast can't run too goddamn long, and they can't run too long. You can see it clearly. People, I can hear them talking around me at people that are at the stadium that looks like we're getting tired.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the weird thing is that these Mickey Joseph teams, that was not the case with Indiana and with Rutgers. It was the opposite. They kind of got off the slow starts, they had slipping in the Indiana game. They slipped in the second quarter, gave up, a 14-point lead in 5 minutes. And then they came out in the second half and shut them down. I mean, Mickey said this after the game too, and this is where my frustration kind of is like a defensive unit that's gone through what they've had to go through, playing a Minnesota team that's good. Mo Ibrahim's great. Minnesota is a good offensive team just in general. They're a good football team. They played really well. They played well enough to win that game. We weren't going to shut them out. They did in the first half. It was, we went out, if you go 3 and out 6 times in a row, and you honestly even just they held that, Minnesota team to 20, and they threw an interception, in our territory. Chuba threw an interception in our territory. That gave them the go-ahead touchdown. The defense played well enough to win that game. Honestly, the defense played pretty well against Illinois too.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you get 15 yards of offense. There's, what are they supposed to do? The time of the possession becomes completely lopsided. The defense is tired, like you're saying. And yeah, we had, the defense gave us a chance. They got that stop. They got the ball back. Logan had a chance. It just, yeah, I think that if they're not putting everything together, it's that these were 2 games. The thing is sad is exactly like what Eric said. And exactly is that I was jacked up to start this game. I was jacked up to start the Illinois game. They came out and started to play the way you wanted to. And then just some bizarre things. Like, I don't know what went on with that. Like, I don't know how did you put, how did Chuba Purdy stop being able, he at no point was able to read the passing game. And that's what Mickey said. He goes, he just wasn't seeing it downfield. And we did that for 6 possessions. And
that's what hurts. That hurts. You got to get, I mean, Johnny, this, the ball's got to go to the playmakers. I mean, if you can't get your ball, I mean, if the ball's not in the playmakers' hands, then you might as well, I don't know what, you better go practice and find some new playmakers because
they're not making plays.
Yeah.
They're just not making plays because you have to be, just have to be able to have a play. You can make 5 yards when you want to, 10 yards when you want to. You can do a 15-yard curl or out when you want to, who you want to. But you got to have people where you can go to when you need to. And the team has to be confident on what the coaches, the plays that they're calling. Because they need to know what we can do. And they have to have those players already set that they can do it when we need it and get it done. But I don't see anybody we can consistently go to and count on when the going gets tough. The tough don't really get going.
I mean, to be fair, like Trey Palmer
and the play calling,
like
I said, the play
drops.
calling.
He's our biggest playmaker, and he dropped the ball. He dropped the ball a few times.
Yeah, that's horrible.
So I guess the kind of what we were just saying, like we've been jacked up to start these games, and there's been a lot of excitement. I mean, I know when we started, talking about, going into the Illinois game, going into this game, there's a lot of excitement around Mickey Joseph. How do we feel now? Because you're going into this Michigan game. I mean, the season's not over, but it's starting to feel a lot like every season we've ever done. It's, it's starting to, at least under Scott, the Frost era, we're probably going to be, I mean, it's looking like it'll be tough to be even, a 4-5 win team this year. So the bowl game is out. There's no chance, I think 2% that ESPN gives us to win that Michigan game is generous. Because it's just not going to, it's
Generous,
absolutely not going to
So
happen.
you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah, you're telling me there's a chance.
Slim and none.
It's optimistic. The ESPN has taken an optimistic stance with the 2% chance of victory. So I think that, how do we feel given that we've talked about this, in previous episodes? Mickey Joseph probably may not win another game. How do we feel about that? Because, the rumor is that he's being pursued potentially by Arizona State. And we know how important he is to recruiting at the school. And like that, I think as a wide receivers coach, you're not going to find a better one probably. So, how do we feel about him as head coach? Like, should he be the head coach if it comes to that? Or do we think that kind of that maybe the job's a little big for him, given I do feel like that we mismanaged the backup quarterback situation and it's probably cost us 2 games.
Well, fellas, I'm just I just don't know what to say. I think that Mickey needs an opportunity to recruit his own players.
Okay.
But if you don't recruit your own players and control the mindset of the players that are coming in, it's very difficult to take over what somebody else has created. Then you got to be responsible for it. Because I believe he's a heck of a recruiter. I think he can make a really good case to some quality players all across the country that if you come here, we're going to play you and we're going to get the most out of you and we're going to get you to the pros. Because I'm going to put together a heck of a cast here. But to play with somebody else's people and to be weak in places that you're not going to be able to change in just a few weeks. Right. And you can't be responsible really for that because that's not what he was doing when he first came.
I mean, I think you also, I agree. I think, Mickey would be a great head coach. I think he like just to touch base on what Johnny said, the recruiting, obviously we know how great of a recruiter he is. My whole thing is like, does he want to coach receivers and recruit? I don't know too many head coaches that are coaching receivers. Maybe he could be he could be that CEO type coach, but I just don't see that in Mickey. I think he loves he likes to be right in there. I think he likes to be, coaching and have a responsibility. And we already know he's great at recruiting, so he could continue to do that. Maybe he does coach. Maybe he sets the trend here. Maybe he is the head coach and he coaches the receiver. Why not? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
Not at all.
I think if you look at the staffs, though, like the unfortunate thing that I see is that he's probably going to want to go out and have access to some of the top, top OCs and DCs that are out there. And what that means, if you do that, you're looking at a complete overhaul because, when an OC comes in or when a head coach comes in, I don't know his relationships. He's only been there less than a year. So I don't know if you get a new OC and a new DC, you bring in, usually those guys want to bring their own, their whole side, usually they
will. I would think, yeah.
So when you're talking Johnny, giving him a whole, his chance to get his guys in, that means staff too. So, he's got to be given that chance to, that, 1, 2, 3 year window, kind of like any new coach would get. Not just saying, hey, what did he do this year? Like, what did he do this year? I mean, we all know what happened, at the beginning of this year to help any of the rest of this year. I mean, the beginning of this year was a nightmare.
Yeah, it was.
It's just,
I
we
think
didn't win the games that we were supposed to win. We lost to Georgia Tech or something.
Georgia Southern. Yeah, it's worse than Georgia Tech. It's worse than Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech.
Well, Northwestern, the loss over Northwestern was a killer.
That just set the whole thing off on the wrong page. I was so frustrated by that. I mean, I hoped that maybe like everyone was wrong about Northwestern and that their roster wasn't gutted and that they were maybe a good team. I mean, Pat Fitzgerald's one of the best coaches in the Big Ten. I thought maybe they are good. Maybe the odds and evens thing, every other year Northwestern's got a great squad. That didn't end up being true. I don't think they've won a game. They have not won a game after beating us, which is crazy. I mean, that's unbelievable.
That's embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing. It's not just that happened. It was about the level of like, you just need to go win that game. Like everybody in the program knew it. Everybody, all offseason, that game is circled. Like that's the game. We need to go win that game in order for Scott to not be fired, in order for this season to not start off with a media circus of when Scott's going to be fired. Everybody knew what was going to happen if you go and lose that game. It's in Ireland. The fans came. They still showed up, paid thousands of dollars to go over there. And you just go out there and you call an onside kick and do all this crazy stuff. And your defense isn't ready to go in any way, shape, or form.
Over.
It's just, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
But I think what we can say fairly based on the way that started is that Mickey, in the time that he is here, I watch better football games in Mickey's part of the year, certainly in the part of the year that, he's replaced Chenander with Bush. And, that I think that but the importance of these games is like not whether we should judge whether or not Mickey is a good head coach based on what he's done in these games. Cause yeah, you guys are right. Like it's gotta be, he needs a window just like Scott had to bring in his own people, whether that be coaches or, and players or whatever, have a full recruiting cycle, we'll say. But ultimately we have to fill a role. And the only thing we have to go off of Mickey as a head coach is what he does in these games. Cause he hasn't been a head coach anywhere else. So my position about Mickey going forward is I think Mickey's so important, and I do think he's a good coach. I think you guys are right. I think he's a good coach. Is he the best coach that we could get? I don't know about. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who they're looking at, or if they're looking at anybody. Maybe Mickey is a foregone.
Well, he's not a
conclusion.
proven head coach. I mean, he's like you said, he's just these few games he's had. You can't judge. There's guys out there with more head coaching experience. That's for sure.
Yeah. So.
But what's right for Nebraska, I think, is the key. Like coming to Nebraska is just a different. It's not like everywhere else where you have a lot of other things going on. It's really an important role. I mean, you wear a lot of hats, but it's just you're the most popular guy in town, in the state.
Yeah, you're like a leader, like a state leader. But I think if they can find somebody that maybe is a more proven head coach and Mickey is okay with, like I know Aranda, like I think him, Mickey and Bush were all at LSU together. Maybe that's like in the works. Like I know that's a rumor out there right now is that's like we have a handshake with him and that he's going to come be head coach. Maybe that's the way. But basically my position is that Mickey has to be on this staff. If that means next year, no matter what, if that means he has to be named head coach because someone else is pursuing him and he's not going to take associate head coach here, then he needs to be the head coach. Like that's kind of where I've rested. And that doesn't, to me at this point, the rest of the season doesn't even matter. Like he has to be on the staff for the Nebraska Cornhuskers next year. That's my position. And if there's a better way to do it,
I think it's bigger than that. I think it's bigger than Mickey. I mean, I like Mickey a lot. I mean, I really do, but I just think just having Mickey on the staff is not enough. I mean, not one guy is going to be able to turn the whole, in my opinion, I think that you have to have the right, you got to have the right head coach, the right OC, the right DC, I mean, everything that the program is so big. It's so important. And I don't know the first thing about running a collegiate program. I don't. But in my opinion, I just think that Mickey on itself, like it's got to be the right guy, the right fit. I want Mickey here. I mean, head coach or not, I want him here too. I think we all agree on that. I think most people would, but again, I just think that you need a lot to make this thing successful. I mean, it took, a long time of the Devaney and Osborne era, to get that going. And those were the right guys. So, I mean, I think the leadership, when you talk about leadership, I think Trev is the right guy to do that. And we'll have to trust in what he does. I really got faith in him to do it. I think he can do it.
Well, I think if Mickey doesn't get the head coaching job, he doesn't stay.
Yeah.
That's what you think.
Because he does not, it won't be fair. He hasn't been given the opportunities that Scott had been given to really be a head coach. And you can't be judged on what other people have picked and done. whether it's the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinators. Those are not his guys, and they certainly are not calling that great of offensive schemes or defensive schemes. So he's living or dying with them. So he has to live and die on his own picks and choices as far as recruiting.
I say the only way that he stays, Johnny, the only way that he stays is if he really truly doesn't want to be a head coach. Like if he just wants to play, if he wants to recruit and hammer the receiver room.
If that's not his dream, I agree.
Only way.
Well, only way.
That's the only way he stays.
He looks like a head coach to me, though.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing.
That's his inspirations. But if he doesn't want to do it, then he really shouldn't do it. He should do what he's good at.
But I can't imagine he wouldn't want
right
that
now.
role.
We have different coaches and people are doing things, and they don't really want to do it. It's like I'm not sure that Scott had his heart in really being the head coach, because it was too many things were too questionable. But you don't have a life. You coach, and that's just it. You coach and you win, and you spend your time down there, and you offer in July, and the rest of the year you're trying to build that program to get it to a winning level, and that's just the way life is for head coaches. Well, for coaches, because offensive, defensive coordinators and their staff, it's pretty much the same way. It's all year long. We got to get out there. You got to get out there and you got to hustle. You got to get the right players, and your players have to believe in you. You can't go out there and work your ass off, and then your offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator calls bad calls or calls that you're not going to be successful at, and you don't believe that it's going to work. When Tom called to play for me, I knew it was going to work. I knew the play. I knew the players that were backing it up. I knew who was involved, and I knew we was going to get it done. I wasn't going out there skeptical about that. I hope such and such holds his man. Everybody's going to do what they're supposed to do, and we're capable of doing it.
Yeah, I think he's I think he's shown that he's a good coach, and I just think whatever we decide to do, like his recruiting prowess, like we have to build. I think we have to recruiting is so important. Like obviously that's not going to fix it, but I think it has to start there. I think it has to start with the recruiting that he's brought to the program, because I've been impressed by what he's done. Dylan Raiola coming back to the game, and clearly things weren't going exactly right with whatever Scott was doing. So I think that's where it starts. So if that means that he has to be the head coach, then that's what that means. Like Eric said, if that's not where his heart is, he wants to be he's the head coach right now. They need to name, but I'm kind of if that's the direction we're going, I think we need to sort it out, name him. I don't think it goes that well to carry it on if you're really not looking elsewhere. I don't know what they're doing, what Trev's doing, but I'd
like to see him give up I don't know, maybe give up that receiver room and just be the head of the program moving forward. Get his guys. He's been coaching long enough. He knows who's good and who's not. Yeah. And get his, he's going to be, it's so good when I was getting recruited by Nebraska and Tom Osborne, he showed up to my front door and he showed up in the living room. And I think that's important. So if we can have a guy like that, especially your head coach, when your head coach shows up in the living room, that's a whole different story than a recruiting coordinator or a position coach even. When your head coach shows up, that's saying that the main guy cares. And so to me, that's the biggest deal. So if he could, and maybe he doesn't have to give it the receiver, but to be fully committed to that recruiting role and the head coach role, maybe he does it. Maybe he does it for Nebraska. Maybe he does it for the program, and he gets in a receivers coach that he thinks is who better than Mickey to know who a good receivers coach is? So bring in that role and go. I think that would, we'd be getting players. If you talk about, I think recruiting is very, very important. You're getting the guys to buy in that want to be here, that know what you're about. And that's where it starts.
Yeah. You guys, you need playmakers. So you need someone to bring that in. It has to start there. You could have the greatest culture in the world and you're not recruiting the players, that can make it, big impact players. You're just not, it's going to be an uphill battle trying to get that done. So you need to couple those things. And Mickey seems to be able to, he seems like he's showing up in people's living rooms and he's getting it done. He said, I can get anybody I want. He's very confident
enthusiastic about what he does. And he knows that he can recruit. That's habit forming. It could grow on you. And that's what we need. Somebody we can believe in. It's going to be there on the job and let's get her done.
Yeah, so I would say that maybe the speed or the steam from the Mickey boat has slowed a little. We're kind of chugging upstream right now, but I think you got to stick with it. I think he needs to be on the team. Like, you know, if he's fine with going back to being an associate head coach and being a wide receivers coach and having Aranda, somebody he's coached with, come in to be the head coach, and he's more comfortable with that, that's great. But he's got to stay. Like, we need somebody who can recruit like that. And clearly, like you guys said, we're watching better football in a couple weeks in a tough spot, you know, being the interim head coach. We're watching better football. So, you know, even though it's his first time as a head coach and we lost these games, and I think to some of this stuff falls on him. I mean, everything ultimately falls on him, but I think the decision making of who you're going to start at quarterback behind Casey Thompson, you know, we had 2 weeks to think about that, and just to have it get to the fourth quarter of the second game before it was like, okay, you know, Logan should have been starting, and this kid's been with the program for a number of years. That's a mistake. Okay. But I still think he's a good coach, and, you know, I think understands the program, recruits well, and we have to go forward with that. So we'll see how he goes forward into this game with Michigan, guys. What do we think are the keys to winning this one? Be a different team. Have a different roster.
You know, it's gonna be a battle uphill. That's for sure. At home against Michigan, they're, you know, playing some good football right now. Defensively, they're really good. You know, and our offense has struggled. So I think that's, you know, if we don't put the points up, then we're gonna be in trouble. And
we're on the road, right? Aren't we in the Big House?
Yep.
That's
yep.
brutal.
Well,
that is absolutely brutal.
Turn around, you know, the thing is, always comes down to, what do the players believe? Do they believe that we can win, or do they not?
I think they do.
Well, I'm not sure if they do believe it. You know, I don't think if they believe in what they're doing, or the program, or the coaching, or the other players. You know, it's like I said, you can start off well, but when you really believe, you show up at fourth quarter. All the things that don't happen in fourth quarter are signs that we're going backwards, not forward. Because that's where you have to be at your very best, where it really comes down, where you really want to gut it out. Because you got to gut it out, and you can't make mistakes. You got to do a little bit extra at fourth quarter, because everybody around you is believing in you, and you believing in everybody else around. So you got to get her done. If you can't pull it off, if it's not that much to you, then it's, you know, it's we need somebody else. Man for man.
Well, I think this whole Casey Thompson getting injured thing, you don't want to put everything on that, but I mean, particularly given that
you can't put hardly anything on that, because second team quarterbacks are supposed to be just as good as your first team quarterbacks.
Well, I think they've been I think they put the wrong second teamer out there. I think that Chubba probably should have been number 3, and Logan should have been number 2. Logan was number 2 last year, and they made that mistake because I don't think the defense stopped fighting in either of the games. The Illinois,
if you're
those
right,
are the two
Sam,
games.
If you're right, then that's really a cause of the team not believing in themselves. If what you're saying is right, they're not believing in what the coaches are choosing to do, so it's hard to really work.
Well, I think the quarterback play is stalled. Like, I think Chubba was in there and he wasn't. I mean, Mickey has said as much. Like, he's not seeing the field. We're going through out. You know, the defense is still fighting, even if like that Illinois game could have gotten way out of hand. I mean, we had 15 yards of offense. That should have been, the defense is still holding them back. Like, this game, defense shut them out in the first. We went 3 and out. We went 3 and out 6 times, and they only gave up 1 touchdown because Chubba turned it over on our own side of the field.
Well, you're giving accolades to our defense when we're not scoring points. That's where our problem is. We're not scoring.
Yeah, we're not scoring points, but I think a lot of that is put on the quarterback. I mean, Logan got 1 series, drove us down the field. They could have scored. We were very close to scoring a touchdown.
Well, so we're kind of in you got to win situation. I mean, I don't think you can look at this game as like, oh, well, I hope we're competitive enough. But if, you know, we get respect, if we lose, like, I think that the mindset's got to be, let's break this down. Who had success against Michigan? What did they do? You know, and how do we beat Michigan offensively? And that room goes in there on defense. And how do we beat them on defense? And the offense goes and does that. And I would be looking for ways to, I mean, it's got to be a way to win. I mean, you got to get in those rooms. Nebraska's
2%.
competitive. You can't.
2% chance. It's
I
a
know,
chance.
2%.
Still,
You're
but
saying there's a chance. You're saying
if
there's
you
a
want
chance.
people to believe, Johnny, if you
That's
want people to
right.
believe,
You can
you
take
better
that
have that
2% and
mindset
run
like
with
we're
it.
going to win.
That's right.
And I
Believe
think that's
in
Mickey's,
Nebraska football.
As long
Mickey's
as we're
job.
breathing, we got a shot to win.
Believe in Nebraska football.
All right,
So
fellas.
I think I agree, Scott. Like geez, Eric. I won't do that again.
Don't call him Scott. Well, they do kind of look alike.
I agree, Eric.
Okay.
I agree, Eric.
Okay.
I think that they need to lock in. And I kind of think, kind of contrary to what Johnny's maybe saying, I think they are playing hard. I think that they went with a QB that was seeing ghosts out there for 6 quarters. I think that's, and if you do that, you're not going to win any games if he can't complete a pass, and he wasn't. We started to get it going. I hope that we see Logan and I hope that they're sleeping on us a little bit and that the players are locked in, because it's, Michigan scoring 42 points per game, giving up 12. We're scoring 25 and giving up 29. That's not,
No.
they're not giving up very much. They're not giving up. They're not letting us have 70, and it's going to be on the quarterbacks, because they're only giving up 72 yards on the ground on average. Like, so we're going to have to throw the ball. And I think Logan needs to go out there and throw the ball. Like, he's going to have to,
Well, he needs time.
You
You need time to throw the ball. If you're not rushed, you can do a 3-step, 5-step drop comfortably and get the ball off. Then we're great. But that very seldom happens.
Right. I think it'll be, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to
If
be
that happens,
what
we're
it is.
good. If that happens, we're good. Then we can blame the quarterback. But when that's not happening, then I'm sticking with the line. It's always what's up front that counts.
Yeah, I think Chuba had time last game. I think that he just started. He didn't see it and just took off. There's guys that are open. If you really watch it, they're open. He just wasn't seeing
He's not ready.
Reading it. He's not ready to go.
Well,
No, and this isn't. I don't want to.
You know, in the zone, as soon as they take that first step, you know where everybody's going.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right, Eric? Everybody's going.
They're not running with the man in zone.
That's right. You run into your spot. And you know exactly where you're getting ready to throw. So you don't have to run or get panic or whatever unless it's breaking down, because you know what's about to happen before it happens.
And yeah, I don't want to just pile on this on Chuba either. Like, I think he could be the future.
Oh, you've done that.
Yeah.
Already.
I know I've beaten him up here a little bit. I think the kid is talented and he could be the future of the program. I guess I don't want to pile on him. I want to pile on, you've got it, like the coaches here, whether it be Mickey or Whipple, have to evaluate where this kid's at and not put him in a situation where he's out there like freezing for 6 quarters and just deciding that, I'm more frustrated that we didn't give another quarterback that I feel like is also good and Logan Smothers a chance. That's really what I'm trying to say. I know I've piled a lot on Chuba Purdy in this.
Well, there's a reason these guys are there. They spend a lot of time with them during the week, and they know. I still feel like they're making the best choice for the team at this point. And sometimes they go with the guy and they learn about it. You got to learn about guys, and they're just seeing these guys take all these reps for the first time here the last 2-3 weeks. So
yeah. And I also forgot that Chuba played against Oklahoma for most of that game, for a large part of that game, because it got out of sight so quick. And he actually played pretty well in that game. So, that game was, the game was pretty much over when he went in, but he did play better in that game. So we'll see what we decide to do. I would love to say that I think that the Huskers have, they have a chance. They have a 2% chance according to ESPN. And I think that it's a chance. It'll be on. We tend to not play as well in those national. I'm surprised that ABC wants to air this game, but they do. We're going to be on national television in the big house, and it'll be a good opportunity to see. I agree, Eric, that it shouldn't just be about being competitive. That shouldn't be their mindset. But I think as we kind of, this season's a lost season. We're not even going to. The Huskers aren't going to be in a bowl game. We're kind of now playing a game of what's the future of this program? Is it Mickey Joseph? How are we going to move forward here?
What's important now?
So I think seeing them play hard.
WIN. What's important now? Win. win.
So you want to see him win that game. I would love to see it. Of course, we want to see him win the game.
We got 2% chance.
The odds
Gotta
are
find a
against
way.
us. We're giving up
Oh, yeah.
29 points. They're giving up 12. They average about 100 more yards per game than us.
That's
They
based on the attitude of our players. That's what takes up the percentages.
rush for
If
100
they
more
believe they
yards.
can win.
They rushed 250 yards a game. That's their average. That's the average. So, and it's a top 5 team. I hope
Sounds brutal.
it's so brutal. Yeah, I just
Sounds brutal, but hey, those are the ones you want to win.
listen.
That's
Go
an
give them
upset.
go give them hell. Go give them hell.
Yeah.
Like the
Okay.
defense has played well. Minnesota's a good team. Go give them. They're gonna sleep on them. There's no way that they're not. Minnesota's Michigan's in dogfights every week. They're probably looking at the Huskers, thinking, yeah, we're playing at home. They're we're just gonna roll them. So, in any case,
All right,
that's our
let's
show.
see what happens next week.
Yeah, let's see
This week. Yeah,
this week. That's
Okay.
our show for this week. Tune in next week to see how if 2% odds come in 2% of the time. So
It looks like a
hopefully that's what it
leaper.
looks like.
All
And
right,
as
fellas.
always,
Thanks a
go
lot.
Big Red.
Bye, guys.
Every day's game day, y'all.